This will be a good one.
It'll be a good one.
Definitely a different type of process.
Cut down or freeze up.
Being a coach's son.
Jackson, of course, they keep retooling. One stolen base, a hit by pitch. Oh my goodness. Hello everyone, welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for this edition of YBMcast, powered by Game 7 Baseball, game7baseball.com. Hey, you know what? Tournament season's right around the corner. I said that, didn't I? We're still in fall ball, right? Yeah, there you go. We got some fall left of the some fall ball still to be played out there. If you're playing, hope maybe might catch up with you. I think there's through the end of October some fall ball left. So if you want to get into some, if not, hey, good luck to you out there on fall ball. But with Game 7, our Super 7 series we got coming up, the tournaments win. This next year, we are inviting some teams. Youth Baseball Midwest is going to host a tournament with Game 7 Baseball. That will be in May 30th through June 1st, that weekend. We're looking forward to this, as first foray into this. We want to have some fun with this, talk to a lot of players. We're working towards a Super 7 series that we will meld with our scholarship that we give away every year. So we're looking to have some fun with this. So be looking out for your invite. We're looking forward to having these teams here. It's going to be 14U only, though. I think that's fair, don't you, Kevin?
Yeah.
Yeah, 14U. You're getting into high school. We'll get a little preview as you head into high school. So it's always a little fun. So make sure you check that out. That should be up with the Game 7 guys here soon. And always a pleasure to have on the show Mr. Kevin Moulder, Prep Baseball Missouri Scouting Director. Thanks for coming on, bud.
Appreciate you having me.
Always. We got some cool stuff. Make sure you go check out the show, Baseball 101 with Darren Sissel. Kevin was on. That was a great show. Go watch. Great conversation. I know we're looking forward to having Kevin on with Darren a few more times. Good topics, right?
Yeah, we enjoyed our first set, if you will, and had a good talk, and I thought we covered some good ground. He's doing a good job with it.
Absolutely. And so, hey, that's our goal here on Youth Baseball Midwest. We want to be the most comprehensive youth baseball talk around. So please, if you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button there. Hit the dinger next to it. It's not a home run, but it's notifications for upcoming episodes such as this. So we hope so. Today, though, we want to talk a little baseball. We were going to look at some players there. We're going to look at the top 5 players in each graduation year, however you want to put it.
Class.
There it is. That's the word I was looking for,
yeah.
Kevin. Thank you. The gray hair is sucking my will to live. And we're going to look at that.
I just see wisdom.
I appreciate that one, bro. That's good. I like that. But we're going to look at this from the G.A.C. And there's some dudes in the G.A.C., isn't there, Kevin?
Almost without fail, it's developed a reputation of just consistently pumping out players. I would venture to say 5 years from now, there will be very talented players in the G.A.C., just like 5 years ago there was, just like 10 years ago there was, and just like this year there is. It just has a consistent track record. You're used to them having high performers, and this year is no exception.
I want to start off right at the top with the senior list, and I hope he's healthy. I haven't heard. Hoping to get a chance to talk with him, do a player spotlight. That's Leo Humbert. Dealt with some injuries last year in his lower leg, some stuff that's kind of been chronic for him and kind of slowed. And honestly, when they lost Jackson Vaughn and Leo Humbert last year, I thought that really hurt their offensive lineup. And when they came back, they just weren't. I mean, hitting is tough as it is. And then, we saw Leo take some swings in the Final Four. Not quite himself, correct?
Well, yeah. Anytime you take off, however many weeks it was, and let's call it 4, 5, 6 weeks, and then you're trying to come back and compete at the highest level, that's extremely difficult. And yes, any team that loses two of their top hitters, obviously Titus was on that team as well, but you take out two middle of the lineup type bats, and that's where they hit for them. That's going to affect any offense, major league offense, high school, college, youth league. You take the guys that were hitting right in the middle out. That is certainly going to have a negative effect on any output offensively.
There you go. And this year we have a little switch in the G.A.C. The South and the Central. There's a little flip-flop. Liberty, Wentzville's moving to the South, and Timberland is coming down to the Central. And I think that's just because of population of schools, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah. Because I think Timberland's, probably going to be Class 5. I think they'll end up probably Class 5 this year. Could maybe. It just depends on where they're at in that scale. We won't know until like the first week of the season.
I was about to say we won't know until the middle to third, fourth week of March. So it's
speculation.
Yeah.
So, but we're looking at, again, when we talk about the G.A.C., you start with Francis Howell. Seniors, juniors, sophomores, and you got two sophomores down here. Ranked 24th and 33rd, Shake Speckert and Alex McCarthy. They probably won't even get to the field.
I don't know. It will be interesting. Coach Perkins has definitely played young guys up before, and I got a good opportunity to be around Shake Speckert this August at the super sophomore games. He's certainly a talented individual. I think it'll obviously depend on this offseason. It's very early. We're in the fall. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of development to be done still, especially for the younger classes. Those guys tend to be the guys that, will put on more weight and gain strength. And this will be a big offseason for both of those youngsters there to see if they can turn into contributing players. But as we look up the list, there's no shortage of talent on Halligan. There's five players on these, from the 27 or 26s and 25 classes in the top 5 there for Francis Howell. So yeah, they're not going to be short on talent. So they'll have to force their way onto the team. They don't need young guys per se, like some programs, will put a young guy in just because they need the talent. Howell's not necessarily in that spot.
No, the 1-2 punch of the juniors for the next 2 years in Curtis and Brett Schneider. These guys, I mean, we saw Dylan Curtis I thought he broke out a little bit last year. He just has a great demeanor we saw him pitch at the G.A.C. Classic. Great demeanor on the mound. Doesn't get too high, doesn't get low, just kind of has that same, he's just as consistent in his pitching as he is his attitude toward it, right?
Yeah, he's super steady, which is extremely rare at that age, and just a steady hand. And it's beyond those guys. I mean, they got a lot of depth on the mound. But yeah, Dylan Curtis, what separates him is his ability to command the strike zone, throw 3 pitches for strikes anytime he wants. He has a plus changeup, His fastball has good life to it. Competes and throws a boatload of strikes and has really good stuff. And is coming out of a 6'4" frame, maybe even a 6'5" frame.
So contenders in this, we're always Fort Zumwalt West. That's a big one. In fact, I believe the G.A.C. Schedule opens with Francis Howell at Fort Zumwalt West, which more than likely we will be there for the G.A.C. game of the week. Why not, right? It's Francis Howell, Fort Zumwalt West, and it's Coach Goff's last season as head coach there.
Really?
Yes. I know I maybe
Wow.
shouldn't say it, but that's what I've heard. That's what it's going to be his last season. I don't know. I think he's announced it. Maybe I shouldn't have said nothing. But I said it. There it is. That's what I've heard down the grapevine. We'll, of course, have him on in the coaches' previews. But, so there you go.
Well, he has another good roster for this year, as always, and what a great run they've had. So I'm sure they'll be looking to send him out on the right note if that is all accurate.
They have, of course, Nolan Sissom, the junior shortstop, Michael Wolf, who's now a sophomore, started as a freshman. These are two. I want to know, there's been a lot of hubbub. I don't know that I want to get into that right now about some transfers and things like that with this school. We'll talk about that at a later date until we know more information. But I wonder where this team is going to get their pitching from, Kevin.
I've thought that before, and then they go out and then they'll send someone out there that will have about a 2 ERA for the entire season. So they seem to have a stockpile of talent there that always, the names change, but then they keep producing. A couple years ago it was Deverman and Whistler, and that was exactly my thought. I was, how can you replace all that? And then they found a way to do it. Maybe not as big a profile guys that are out-getters and know how to pitch. And Carter Perry will be one of probably the linchpin this year, I would imagine, for them. So yeah, it will be interesting, but they seem to always fill those voids.
The one that stands out, you got him ranked number 15, Fort Zumwalt North. They've struggled a long time here in the G.A.C. Once a really tough baseball program. But they've had their struggles over the last 4 or 5 years, just been tough. But you got Camden Lohman there, who is a stud pitcher.
He is. He'll be one of the top arms in the state, regardless of conference and whatnot. Camden, big, tall, lean, projectable right-hander that can run it up to 91 or so, and looking forward to see what an off-season of training does for him. Because, he's the guy that you look at and you're like, okay, this isn't a finished product. So I expect he'll be better next year than he was this year. And, you hope that for the players, but you can easily see the projection in him. And, he'll definitely be one of the top arms in the state and certainly the conference. And so probably go Zumwalt North, I would say.
Yeah, I think so. We'll get a chance to look at a little bit more of these teams in the future, and we'll do some breakdowns. But, I mean, that young man stands out as just right there. Another one here that I think is interesting, on his way to Evansville, committed to Evansville, is Jack Cowling. Coach Hellman there. Is this a year that you see North Point break out a little bit?
It'll be interesting. I think this is their first year of a full senior class, if I'm not mistaken. So I would expect, and they were pretty competitive last year. I went out and saw them. They got some talent, but certainly led by Jack Cowling and He's a two-way standout in high school, obviously hitting and whatnot, but he's going to Evansville to pitch. He will certainly need to lead the charge, but there's another guy. This is a big offseason for him, and a lot of the same thoughts I have about Camden Lohman and projection I have about Jack Cowling, and I would expect this will be a big spring for him.
It's always interesting because you talk about this all the time. You have these two-way athlete stars, and you see some of these pitchers that, you got, well, he probably won't pitch, he won't hit in college, but he's a very good hitter in high school and things like that. And I'm watching the Dodgers and Mets game 1, and Jack Flaherty's on the mound, and they're talking about the last time he pitched or not the last time, but he pitched in Dodger Stadium when he was in high school, and he was playing and he was pitching and he drove in the winning run and pitched a 1-0 ball game, so.
Yeah.
And so I think, and as you've talked about these things, I listen for that stuff and I go, oh, example, and you get example after example of those things. They're good athletes, but, it separates once you get to that next level, doesn't it?
It really does. And, there's only, there's Shohei Ohtani. Before him, there was Babe Ruth. Like, it comes around like every third, fourth, fifth generation, I suppose, where you'll get a guy like that can do both at the highest of high levels. But, yeah, it is not easy to do both beyond high school. But in high school, a lot of your better athletes are going to be your best pitcher and your shortstop, or your best pitcher and sometimes a first baseman or outfielder, depending on what hand they throw with. So you see it in high school a lot, and but you can also kind of know, at least in my capacity, you sit there and you watch, and this guy is going to favor probably pitching when he gets to college, or this guy's going to favor hitting when he gets to college. It gets tougher to do both. It will be interesting. I think the two-way player is going to become more in demand and more popular when and if and when, sounding less like if, but when these 34-man rosters get implemented at the Division I level, and a two-way player is going to be a hot commodity when that happens, because you're basically getting a 35th player, if you will. You get 2 for 1 with the two-way. So it might make a little bit more of a comeback, but it is very challenging, and it does take a lot of time, and it takes a huge commitment and a special athlete.
Yeah. Dylan Cease was another one that comes to mind. They were talking about he wanted to be a power hitting shortstop in the MLB. There you go.
So did I.
I love that. These are the teams, Timberland, the last big name here. Of course, Richie Swain going to Mississippi State. Timberland coming down into the Central. Looks like they may be at the bottom end of Class 6 or top end of Class 5. Would you rather be at the top end of Class 5 or the bottom end of Class 6, Kevin?
That's kind of a loaded question. I would say that's really case by case. The competitor in me, I would say I would want to play versus the best competition. So that would be at the 6A level or the Class 6 level. Now, being at Class 5, you can still play great competition. You can play in the tournaments. You can still schedule a very tough schedule, but the path is a little easier to get to the Final Four and ultimately win a state championship. So it's eye of the beholder, I would say.
I agree with you there, but I would say this, especially after what I saw last year. I think Class 5 in this state is a very competitive class up and down. Even Class 6. No, I know what you're saying. Don't get me wrong. But I think if you're looking at the class up and down, if you're losing a few players because of of size, you know what I mean? You're still going to have to bring your lunch to win Class 5.
Oh, 100%. And even 4A has some super competitive teams where there's years when the best 4A team can beat anybody in the state. But we do this every year where we're at the state tournament, and so when you can best tell is, usually that lineup's like a one or two batters deeper at the 6A level. And the most eye-opening or easiest piece to see is the depth in pitching. Anyone could have the best pitcher in the state. It could be a 1A school, it could be a 2A school. But when you're calling guy 8 out of the bullpen, that's going to look significantly different at the 6A level than it does the 3A level, and even the 5A level, honestly. So that's where you start to notice it, is the depth in the pitching. And going to the 3-game series in the sectional, I think that's also where you're going to really notice. And it's not a 1 game, hey, let's run our best arm out there anymore. It's a 3-game series. You have to show, you're going to have some real depth to advance in the state tournament now. So that's where the class size plays a major role, because, like I said before, anyone can have the best pitcher. It's not exclusive to 6As when we have the best pitcher. That's not true at all. A lot of times the best pitcher in the state will be at a 5A or a 4A. But you look at the overall depth of a pitching staff, those are going to be at all the big schools.
Yeah. You've even seen it happen in a Class 2, Class 3 school here and there with pitching, So,
Yes.
So that brings us, how far do you think Richie can carry Timberland?
Well, he will be able to do his part, obviously. He gets to throw one of the best of 3 series. He gets to throw one district game, most likely. Occasionally there'll be a district formatting that'll, where a guy could finagle 2 starts depending on weather and whatnot. But so you need more than Richie Swain. But Richie, that's one of the top arms in the state. He's going to have pro interest this spring. He is an extremely exciting arm heading to Mississippi State. He has electric stuff at time, and this is going to be a big offseason for Richie. If he takes any sort of a jump forward, he is turning himself into a legitimate pro prospect this spring, let alone, once he gets into college and continues to develop.
And I think this is always a tough thing for a high school coach. When you're looking at that scenario, you sometimes see where the added pressure, if he's going to be a pro prospect, do you start to lessen innings? Do you start to set pitch counts? Does an advisor come in and say, hey, look, you can only throw 80 pitches. That's it. And I think that those things I've seen happen. That's got to be tough on a high school coach who is trying to put his product on to compete with the rest of the kids around him. And I think that puts a lot of pressure on a young man like Richie Swain, who wants to maybe be part. And as a competitor, you're trying to go out and compete for a state title.
Absolutely. That's a tremendous challenge, for a high school coach. And, it's a blessing and a curse. Now, I would want those blessings all day long. Right. And deal with the curse part of it. But it is a reality, and you have to protect and take care of a promising young arm like that. And they've gone through that before. They had Adam Hatchman a couple of years ago. So I'm sure they'll do a great job with Richie. But that is a reality, and that's something they'll keep an eye on. To me, like, you do it on the front end, like you build them up slow. You do that right. You don't run them out there for 105 pitches on opening day. But you can build them, 60 right. Opening day, 75. And I'm not laying the numbers are the numbers, but then you have your horse for the stretch run, and you turn them loose and let them run, during the postseason.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and you got some guys, I think the leadership from, you're going to have to get from Carson Ramos and Hayden Post coming back this year. I think those two are going to be a big part of that program and where they go.
Just real quick, touching on Ramos, that is a key piece of this because you have an electric arm like a Richie Swain, and we've all seen that before where they have a catcher that can't handle someone like that. And that's where Ramos is going to be one of the keys to the team, not only offensively, because I imagine he'll be batting in the middle of the lineup, but there you got a guy that can legitimately handle an arm like that, which is huge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's roll down to a couple of these, this 2027 class. The big name that kind of steps up here in the G.A.C., most people don't, is Carter Martin over in Warrenton. Warrenton always kind of seems to be right there in the mix of everything. They bring athletes in, coach gets the most out of them, but you got a dude right here that can really make your season if you got the right pieces around him.
Yeah, another two-way talent. Carter's a nice shortstop, really good defender, does a good job with the bat. But I really like him on the mound. That's a really good fastball, some real life to it. It will be interesting. All these, I would say this about any 2027, they're young enough where you don't, who knows which path it ends up working for them, positionally or pitching. But I certainly am excited to follow his career. And, he's impacting the game at three different levels. He's, on the mound, defensively at short, and in the batter's box. He's one of the more exciting players in that class.
Ryan Dobritz, is that how it's pronounced?
Yes.
Sweet. Liberty, Wentzville, right there. Coach Reeder. I haven't seen this young man before, so talk to us a little bit about Dobritz.
He's been battling a little bit of an injury, but will be full strength next year. Also, one of the a two-way talent, but one of the bigger arms in the class. Early to say, but we would expect him to have some of the best velocity in this class. He's got a special arm, a lot of arm talent. So that could be a kid that gives Liberty a nice added boost to the varsity roster if he's on top of his game on the mound in particular, to throw in a big-time arm for him.
And especially, that bump up into the South. I mean, Liberty's played, they don't shy away because they're a Class 6 school. They play the Howells, they play the West. But, now you got that home and home every week with these teams. It's going to be interesting to see how that washes out and where they go, because they, pitching-wise, they lost a couple of good arms. And so it'll be interesting to see how they reset that.
Yes, definitely.
Last year, I want to see, this is the one with Zumwalt West that I think is kind of right there. As a freshman, you kind of find your way. But Michael Wolf played really good baseball as a freshman last year for Fort Zumwalt West. Didn't see that coming. I think the injury kind of forced Coach Goff to play him. Because I think it was Signorelli or one of the guys that got hurt, so he ended up having to put him in the lineup, and he never took him out after that. And that's taking advantage of those opportunities.
Yeah, honestly, I thought he was going to make the varsity team from the get-go, even without injury. But yeah, West has not shied away from putting a freshman in there. Obviously, Nolan System has started from day one as well, and they batted him third and at leadoff and shortstop. And Wolf was in there basically from the start for West and did a really good job as a freshman. And not only as a freshman, but he's playing at the highest level in our state. They're playing, the who's who schedule wise and competing. They didn't make it to state, but they're competing to win a state championship is what Zumwalt West was doing. Mm-hmm. They came up short in districts, but he had a great job, and will have an expanded role this year, and I'm sure will be more relied upon. In the lineup this year. But that's one of the top bats in the class, in the 2027 class, and Michael Wolf can really hit.
Yes, he can. And I'm looking forward to seeing if that's another step for him this year. And if he's in the middle of that lineup hitting like he can, that could be very dangerous.
Yes, and this is another great point that I like to talk to young players about all the time is versatility is a beautiful thing. Michael Wolf grew up playing shortstop. He's a shortstop. He's a shortstop. Well, really, he's a baseball player. He wasn't going to start at shortstop over Nolan's system when Michael Wolf was a freshman. So he played a lot of outfield his first year, and that's how he cracked the lineup. He didn't say, "Well, coach, I'm a shortstop." Well, if he would have held that line, he would have been the starting shortstop on the sophomore team or the freshman team. So versatility is a beautiful thing, and it got a young player a chance to make the varsity team because he's willing and athletic enough to be able to go play an outfield spot and do a really good job.
And not to mention, you talk about shortstop, the arm, because the arm translates. Because he threw his arm translated. He was playing right field. I saw him throw a guy out at third, at home. I mean, if you can throw it from the hole across the diamond, on a seed, it plays a lot of different places.
I actually remember the Columbia tournament last spring, and I remember getting on video a highlight reel catch he made in right field. So yeah. Great athlete.
Exactly. And I think this is the key to what we talked about here. I think the G.A.C. is going to be very tough. You just look at just the top 5 here. It's just a scratch of the surface. And you look at the numbers here on that senior side. Humbert's 5, Swain 7, Lohman 15, Vaughn 18, and Cowling 26. You got 5 guys basically, close. Cowling's just outside the top 25. That bodes well for that conference. It's a lot of talent in the top end of that conference.
There is a bunch of talent in there. That is for sure.
And then it's not much different. I think even, it's even a little better in the 27 class with Curtis at 2, Sissom at 4, Brett Schneider you got at 6, Pyle at 10, and Brady Tanner, 24. So 5 guys in the top 25, and you got 2 of the top 5 players. And Brett Schneider.
Yeah, that 26 class is really loaded. Yes.
Oh my gosh, Kevin. And so
yes,
it's where in the 27 class, when I started looking at that, the west side of the state and the south side of the state is much more loaded in the top end than in the east side of the state, which is kind of interesting. It'll be fun to talk about that. But because we're going to do this, next week we're going to talk about, we're going to go to the St. Louis Suburban Conference and look at the players in the top 5, where they're at. Where does that conference look? Then we'll go over to Kansas City. We're going to go down south to the COC, Central Ozark Conference, the new power conference, I would call it. I think that's we got to do that. It's the G.A.C., St. Louis Suburban, Kansas City Suburban, and the COC. We do have a Power 4.
Yeah, there we go. Well, I'm sure the MCC would want to
the
say in
MCC.
that as well.
That's tough because there's only 5 schools in it, though.
Yeah, sure.
Pretty
representative.
They're pretty good schools, though. You're not wrong. You're not wrong with CBC, DeSmet, SLU, St. John, Vianney. Chaminade kind of is, I don't know if they were they ever good at baseball? Chaminade?
Yes, and I would, if I had a vote for who has the best facility in the state, I would tell you Chaminade.
Okay. Well, there's some cash there to do it with, too.
Yes.
That's that helps. But so we could do that. It's 4 teams. All right. So Power 5, we'll give it to them.
Power 5.
For we'll do it for Coach Horn and Coach Canavan. They're good dudes. I like that, Kevin.
Notre Dame's not in the Power 4, and they're one of the blue bloods, I guess. So it just kind of depends on how you look at it.
Exactly. There you go. We're looking at the South. Early thoughts. Francis Howell again loaded. Everybody's going to be in that South division is going to be looking up. I think at Francis Howell again. Your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, my thoughts are you put this list together for me, and I just I don't really start preparing for the predictions in the season until after the winter because we talk about how much guys develop and like there'll be kids that
Pop.
just come out of the woodworks and whatnot. But I'm looking at your list and I'm counting, like 7 guys from Francis Howell on just in the top 5 between the 25, 26, 27. That tells me Francis Howell is going to be loaded again. I'm seeing a lot of Zumwalt West players on here. Tells me they're going to be loaded. Timberland has a lot of talent. So this is it's going to be the usual suspects, I think.
Yeah, I agree. The Central, it'll be interesting because if Timberland's in the Central with that talent, Richie Swain, I think, we kind of said that a little bit about Holt when they come down to the Central and weren't able to do it. So I think that'll be interesting. Zumwalt South has lost pretty much their whole team. New head coach Eric Mitchell, good luck. I'm sure they've got guys. I'm not pouring dirt on them or anything, but they're kind of starting from scratch here a little bit because they rode that team for the last couple years. So I think that's interesting. I'm not making prediction. I'm just talking about what you see, just in this early part of the season. I think Zumwalt East the same way. Your 2 big bats in that lineup with Jackson Carter and Eric Williams gone. You're left with you got Hollingsworth on the mound. So the Central looks. Your thoughts on the Central? If you've even looked at it.
I haven't got into that yet.
So
you're out ahead of me 3 months, Brian.
I got to try and do something,
Yeah.
But
the reason, and I just said it, but so much changes with these high school athletes in over a winter's time frame. Players change so much. I guarantee there will be a pitcher that throws currently or this summer through 81 to 83 or 4 that will come out next spring and be 86, 89 and be a big time deal. There will be some positional player that puts on 12 pounds of muscle and completely transforms himself and will be hitting doubles and some homers and will be just different players. And that stuff is stuff that's very hard to predict at this. So you see what they look like after the winter workouts, and it helps get an idea of what these schools are going to look like that spring.
I'm looking forward to seeing. We got Orchard Farm over in the north. With the perennials in Warrenton and St. Charles West. Coach Allen does a great job with West, but Brandon Sugar is the new head coach over at Orchard Farm. And I'm sure you're aware of who Brandon Sugar is, correct?
Yes.
And so he's taken over that role. They've got some talent. We saw them at the G.A.C. Classic. I liked the way they looked. I think they're on the up. And I think I like Sugar's attitude. I like his approach. It kind of reminds me of DuPont a little bit, what we saw last year at Lafayette, that youthful energy, I think it kind of is infectious within some of these programs. So it'll be interesting to see how he does over at Orchard Farm. So there you go, folks. I ain't predicting anybody yet. I'm just looking at what I see early on with some of these programs and what we're going to have when it comes to this season. Oh, you had froze. I thought you were just you froze. Okay. Did you hear what I said about Brandon?
No, I heard you talking about Brandon Sugar, and then it was probably 25 seconds of frozen screen.
Oh, okay. Well, I'd said it'll be interesting to see how that program goes from here. He kind of reminds me a little bit of kind of what DuPont did for Lafayette, that youthful exuberance a little bit, and how infectious that can be. It'll be interesting to see how he does with Orchard Farm.
Yeah, typically young players respond really well to that, so that'll be a fun team to track.
Absolutely. And they got some talent. The young catcher, it'll be interesting.
Absolutely, they do.
Right? That's one that just pops to mind. And I agree with you, Kevin. I think that's the tough thing. And there's so many variables involved in baseball. And even can you stay healthy? And then, who's that guy? Who do you lose? So I think the variables in baseball are interesting, especially at the high school level.
Absolutely.
So
that's what makes it fun.
Exactly. So, but we wanted to share, these are some of the players that pop off, kind of give you an idea. We're going to look at the St. Louis Suburban next week. I think that's going to be some really good baseball. The St. Louis Suburban Conference, especially yellow, red, even into the blue, some really good baseball over there. And we're going to look at some of those players from that conference as we move through this and head towards January and where it all starts again. Boom. That's it. All right, folks. Thanks for tuning in. Do appreciate it. Look, if you like what we're doing, hit the subscribe button. It's what we do. Hit the dinger next to it. Notifications for upcoming episodes such as this. Make sure you follow Kevin Moulder at PBR Moulder, right?
Sounds right. All right.
We'll flash it. I know you can also follow at Prep Baseball Missouri at Prep Baseball Mo. I know that one. I think his personal one, I believe, or the one you got with your name on it, is at PBR_Moulder. See, look at that.
That's it. Yes.
There you go. And you can do that on Instagram and X. Of course, like I said, Instagram and X at Prep Baseball Mo. So check those out. Make sure it's a good follow. Keeps you up to date on what's going on with all the big time players around the state, folks. Kevin, as always, buddy, I appreciate your time.
Always enjoy talking baseball with you.
Folks, thanks for tuning in. Everybody have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, give it to them, Kevin.
Keep throwing strikes.
Hitters, hit them where they ain't. Go Dodgers. We'll see y'all next time.